Ladies and gentlemen.
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 Can I please have your attention?
Right now, showtime. Are you ready? Are you ready for start time?
Let's find out. Ready, set, go.
What is going on, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel. My name is DJ Big Jake with J. Kelly Productions. This is the very first episode of WedTX, our WedTexas Talks. So kind of the premise of this podcast is to bring in different wedding vendors, people that are associated with the event industry, and give you guys the opportunity to get to know them, what their industry is about, what you should be looking for when you're hiring these vendors. So today, for my very first guest, I brought in Cody Spence with All-Star Catering, aka Catering Cody. Great guy. I've been knowing him. I've been in Texas about 10 years now, and he was actually one of the very first people that I connected with when I moved here. So I feel like he would be a great first guest. Cody Spence, thank you so much for coming today, man. I appreciate it.
Man, well, thank you for having me. It's an honor, and I didn't realize it had been 10 years, man. It makes me feel a little old now. But I appreciate you having me on this morning, and it's incredible to see just the both of us, how we've grown up in this industry over the last decade.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, we were kind of green. You know, we were kind of babies when we came into this thing, and, you know, now I feel like a lot of people are, really looking up to us and looking to us for guidance and our expertise, which really makes you feel good and really kind of makes you feel like, you know, you've been doing some positive things and making some positive strides, not only in your personal life, but in your professional life as well. So yeah, let's just kind of dive into this thing, man. So, you know, why don't you kind of tell everybody, you know, a little bit about your backstory, you know, early life, childhood, where you came from, all that good stuff, man. Let the guests know, get them the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better.
Great, yeah. So, born and raised in Conroe, Texas, and mom was in retail, dad was a UPS man, and when I was in kindergarten, they decided that they weren't spending enough time with us as kids, which now as a newer parent, like, I totally get. Mm-hmm. And they bought their own company, and it was a daycare center, so we were spending all the time with our parents. And they sold that when I was a sophomore in high school, and they started a catering company. And they didn't do it to be what it is today. They did it as a retirement gig. You know, they were in their 40s, and they had sold a company, and they were just looking for something to help pay for college and things like that.
Okay.
And
so it just kind of seems like the entrepreneurial spirit has like always been there, and it was kind of like ingrained in you from an early age.
Correct. So my dad, obviously entrepreneur, his dad, entrepreneur, and his dad before him, entrepreneur. It just is in that Spence blood, I guess.
Okay, so you know, you guys started the business. You started catering in order to retire. When you actually got into it, did they realize like that it was going to be a lot more involved than what they had expected? Like, what was kind of their initial plans, or like how busy did they think they were going to be when they first kicked this thing off?
I mean, they really were just wanting to do stuff like for small local community events, and then for their church. Simple as that. And then, I mean, within 6 months, it took off. My dad had made a lot of contacts over the years just from owning a business, being involved in the community through Lions Club and the Chamber and things like that. And through those contacts, he secured some contracts almost on accident. And the company just blew up from there. And then 3 years later, when one of those contracts ended, the first wedding venue had opened in Conroe. And so it was just kind of fate.
Which one was that?
At the time, it was called Amber Springs, but now it's the Springs Lake Conroe.
Okay, yeah. I think that's actually where I met you. Was
Correct.
at one of the Springs events. I mean, they were the only, name in the game at that point. Now there's 50 venues up in that area, man. But back then, like, Springs ruled it all, man, and they're still great. But like,
100%.
like you guys were with Montgomery County, Conroe, like All-Star Catering, like definitely was synonymous with like food, right? I didn't know of any other caterers besides you guys, and I think just because y'all worked every single weekend, like y'all had that county on lock, man, from day one.
Yeah, so there's some older catering companies. One actually just retired this year, has been doing it since the mid 80s. And then there's another one, but as far as the wedding side of it goes and high-end events, that would be All-Star Catering.
So how many years from like doing like corporate stuff was there before you got into weddings?
So the company was founded in 2005, in April 1st, 2005. And by the end of 2005, they had secured that contract that I talked about. And they took over a country club. And so it was a School of Hard Knocks for the first year. And then they picked up some corporate contracts in Houston for just daily lunches and breakfasts and things like that. They did that for 3 years. And then that country club was sold in 2008. So our contract was not renewed, obviously, because we did it on behalf of the bank. And at that time, the crash happened in 2008, and corporate lunches went out the window. And that's what I was talking about. It was just like divine intervention, and the wedding industry just exploded out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. So, you know, you had mentioned like your parents started this, you know, as an opportunity to pay for college and retire. So, like, are they officially retired from the business at this point?
So my dad is. He still does odd things around the office, and he'll pick up like a grocery delivery, or he does like vehicle maintenance, or if we have like a serious issue that I'm trying to work through, like he comes in. He's very graceful with his time, and it's very much appreciated because he was a forced retire. He didn't want to, but his doctor made him. My mom is still in the business day to day, Monday through Friday, and she does a lot of the accounting. And within probably the next 2 to 3 years, she's looking to fully retire.
So who's really running the show at this point? Like who's at the top essentially? Is it you?
That would be me and my wife by proxy.
Okay. So how was like that transition, right? Like dad was forced to stop for medical reasons, and he's like, "Hey son, like it is your time." You know, like how did that go? I mean, did you feel confident? Were you nervous? You know, kind of tell me that experience going through that.
So I've been involved since day one, 2005. So I've been doing this almost 18 years now, and full time for 12 years. So my dad's very much hey, you need to learn how to do this. For anything I've done ever, whether it's around the house or just maintenance stuff, when I was 8, 9, 10 years old at the business they had before, he was teaching me how to do stuff, just in case something ever happened to them, that knowledge is at least somewhere. Yeah. So he's instilled that in me since day one. So I've been learning, like I said, to take over for almost 18 years now. Yeah. But my actual training since 2010, I have been learning just slowly different things along the way, learning how to take over. And then since he was forced to retire in 2015, it's been, I guess that was 2016, he has given me things that I need to learn along the way, and so has my mother. You know, payroll is a big one, learning how to do payroll and the accounting and stuff like that.
Yeah, payroll gets expensive, especially in October and May.
Boy, it's
for those of you that don't know, those are like our 2 busiest months in the wedding industry. So you just get hammered. It's a good thing, but then also like you see that much money going out and you're like, that's a lot, you know, but we're very blessed to be able to, you know, support other families and have the level of success that we had. But, you know, talking about your dad starting you early on, I mean, have you kind of started to plant those seeds in your children? And if you could just kind of let everybody know, like, how many kids you guys actually do have?
So first, shout out to my wife. We run the company together. We've been married 8 years this past week. And
congrats, man.
Thanks, man. It's been a blessing.
How long y'all been together total?
coming up on 12 and a half, or it's right at 12 and a half years.
Dude, so that's like me and my wife met right around the same time.
Correct.
We're like 13 years.
Yeah, man.
Together.
And we also had kids right around the same time together too.
Yeah, I know.
So I got 2 kids. I got a 5-year-old Lindley and a 2-year-old Luke, and they are a rambunctious duo, but they're super sweet kids. And yes, I have especially in Lindley, she's at just a very curious and learning age. You know, she asks a lot of questions. You have a kid the same age, a couple of them, and so you understand it. They just there's 17 questions for every task, and I just do my best, one, to not lose patience, just because you are at work, you're busy, you have a schedule, you're trying to keep up with everything, but okay, this is why we do this, we do it in this order, and this is the reason why. Yeah. And then she fills in the blanks with the rest of her questions.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes because as a parent, like we know how to do A, B, and C, but the kids ask like so many questions that it's just quicker for us to do it most of the time. But what we should be doing is like taking that step back and like slowing it down for them. Because let's be honest, like what's an extra 2 to 3 minutes out of our time? We're so go in this industry because this is a 7-day-a-week industry. There's no off days, there's no downtime. So like I think a lot of times we have this feeling like the quicker we get it done, like the quicker we can relax. But also like having to be present with our kids because those times are so precious and we get so little of that. We sacrifice a lot to be doing these events and going out every weekend. Like we don't have that normal 9-to-5 schedule. So we have to capitalize on those opportunities when we get them.
No, 100%. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, and you hammered away at a really good point of we just wanted, just let me do it so that we can get it out of the way so that I can spend more time with you. And, it was funny, me and Candace were having this conversation, Candace is my wife, we were having this conversation this morning because I'm the cook in the house, so like I make the food. And so every morning I make the breakfasts and the smoothies and all that stuff.
You make a hot breakfast every morning?
Not every morning. Some mornings it's bananas, apples, and smoothies.
But dude, props up for that, man.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's my wife, man. Like every morning, like hot meal, and I'm just like, I just want a cup of coffee and just relax before the chaos hits, man.
But my kids want to help make the smoothies. And it's not a cleanly process with kids involved. And I'm like, just let me do it. We're in a hurry, and my wife's just like, what's an extra 3 minutes? I'm like, well, if we don't hurry up, then we don't have any time to spend together. She goes, spend your time with your kids this way.
Yeah.
Never thought about it that way. And we get so entrenched in the go mode that we forget to just stop and observe the little things around us with our family.
We fail to realize that our presence is a present for them.
100%.
Like you don't have to always be super involved in going on an adventure and all that. Like when they were really young and I was just like, I'd had a long day and I was tired, I would lay in the middle of the living room and just let them use me as a jungle gym.
100%.
They could jump on me, anything like that. But for them, like that was playtime. And for me, I just put my head on a pillow and I'm just kicking it, man.
That's it, dude. That's the way it is, buddy.
Yeah, it's kids are interesting, man. I've got 2 boys. I had 5, 4, and 2. And we had the 2 boys first, and then we had the girl. And, dude, when I had the girl, like, things changed, man. It was different. Oh, dude, I am a sucker, man.
I am the same way.
But there's no greater feeling like when you walk in and they haven't seen you all day and it's like, daddy, daddy, daddy. And they give you that big hug, man. You're like, oh, dude, this was worth it. Like, yeah, you were just a knucklehead this morning and you drove me up the wall. But, like, all that is washed away by that one simple act that you did.
100%, man.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, kind of diving back into it. So, you said that you and, your wife are, the main 2 people in the office, which I actually do hear that a lot because, we always try to promote each other because in this industry, you become friends with people that are in it, because like I said, we don't work normal schedules. So you kind of tend to run in circles of people that you feel have the same character, the same morals, and kind of bring that same quality of service to what you do. So me and you have really become close over the years. But, you know, how has it been? Well, first off, how did you meet your wife? Tell me that story.
So, my wife was a intern at ExxonMobil, 396 Greens Road, not too far from here.
Okay.
When she was a senior in high school. I think I was 19 or 20 at the time, and that's when we initially met. I was catering a gig for ExxonMobil at this corporate facility. And I gave her my number. We texted for a little bit here and there, and then we didn't talk for like 10 months.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, you didn't say slid into the DMs, which is like all we hear nowadays.
That is all we hear.
Like online dating, and I'm like, the thought of that just like it freaks me out to like not just meet somebody organically.
Right. I wrote my phone number on the back of a business card and slid it to her when I shook her hand. And she's like, she told me I'd make a terrible drug dealer. But we didn't talk for like 10 months, and we were both in a relationship for a while, and we both happened to break up, oddly, around the same time. And she messaged me one day, a couple weeks after I had broken up with the girl that I was with at the time, and it just organically started from there. We went on a date. And
where'd you take her on the first date?
It was an absolute doozy. I took her for Starbucks and frozen yogurt, and she doesn't drink coffee, and she didn't like the frozen yogurt.
Oh, dude.
It was rough, but she luckily blessed me with a second date,
Yeah.
and the rest is history, man.
But that's actually a really good first date, because it's simple and quick. So if it's not working out, like, there's not a lot of time invested, like going to a nice restaurant or like people that go to the movies. Like, I think that's the worst possible first date idea. Like, why are we going to sit in a dark room and not interact with each other?
I mean, the first date, you know, if you ever seen Van Wilder, you get it. First dates are interviews.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, so it gives you a chance. You're not, I mean, you're eating frozen yogurt, but you're not like chomping down on a steak or something like that. So it gives you a real opportunity to sit face to face, communicate, ask each other questions, and just see if the vibe is right.
Yeah. Me and my wife's first date was actually really funny. We worked together, and she was the new girl. I had been there for a few years. We worked at a restaurant, really nice high-end restaurant, Rufino's, Baton Rouge. If you guys are ever stopping through, make sure you stop there.
It's delicious.
Yeah, it's incredible. Get the crab meat cheesecake, bomb. But she wanted, like, nothing to do with me, bro. Like, nothing. Like, I was every attempt, right? And she was like, nah, I don't mix business and pleasure, blah, blah, blah. So after 6 months, I wore it down with my charm, or maybe she just got tired of my crap, you know? But, like, she agreed to go on a date with me, and we ended up at Chimes for trivia night. And it was Sunday, so the bars closed at midnight, but if you went across the river in Baton Rouge, they stayed open later. So we go over there, drinking over there, and on the way back, I'm driving, because I was the one that, like, still had my head on straight. Like, she was having a good time, let's just say that. And the song Only Girl in the World by Rihanna comes on. She rolls the window down, and we're going across the Mississippi Bridge, and she's full body hanging out, dude. Just want you to make me feel. And it was like the worst singing ever, but I was like, I love her free spirit. You know?
I'm gonna marry that girl.
Yeah, dude, 100%, dude. I was like, love it. So that's kind of always been a running joke between us. And we went home. I brought her home and went up to her apartment and just gave her a kiss. Called it in the night, and I was like, hey, like, I'd really like to take you to lunch tomorrow. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. And it was like the worst possible lunch ever, because we actually drank some more when we got back to her apartment. So we were like stupid hungover, you know, like that painful hungover, and then you're trying to like have a date with this person. And so we both thought that was it, but we ended up giving it a few more tries. We actually kept it secret at the restaurant for 6 months that we were dating.
Naturally.
Yeah, and then somebody just spread a rumor, and we were like, yeah. And so here we are 13 years later, man. 3 kids, yeah.
That's great.
But no, working with your wife, man, like, you know, how is that dynamic, man? Because, you know, me and my wife, we cannot work together. Like, we functioned very well in our home, but when it comes to business, because she's an entrepreneur, she's a very successful business owner. I feel like I'm a successful business owner. Like, you got two bosses trying to control the situation and nobody's backing down. So like we just butt heads constantly, and after a couple hours, like we just throw our hands up and we walk away. So like, how does it work with your marriage?
So it actually works very, very well. It was an adjustment, don't get me wrong, because she came on with the company 6 months after we got married. So we did not live together before. Yeah. So we're learning how to live together, coexist, work together, and be together 24 hours a day. Yeah. Now, we are very, very lucky and very blessed that we are the yin to each other's yang. We do not have the same skill sets almost anywhere in any part of the company. And we also have completely different jobs within the company. She kind of stays, for lack of a better term, in her lane. I kind of stay in my lane. And I'm community development. I'm out there drumming up business. Like, I'm not in the office a whole lot. Yeah. So that part helps too.
So she's more or less on the sales side, right? Because a lot of clients say that's who they've dealt with is Candace. Because I'm like, hey, you need to call Cody. And then after so many times, people are like, well, actually talk to Candace. So now I'm just like, hey, you need to talk to Candace.
Yeah, no, you definitely need to talk to Candace. If you want to talk to me, you're more than welcome to call me and talk to me. But what I'm going to do is direct you to Candace. Yeah. Just because Candace is going to give the fastest, most efficient, quickest response. If you want a quote today, that's who you need to talk to because I'm out on the road. Yeah. And we also, it helps, we take separate vehicles to work. So there is that decompression time. At the end of the day, we take separate vehicles, we do our own thing.
That's actually really clutch, man. Because like you have to, like, as much as you love your partner, you still need like some downtime to process the day. And it's like if you've both had a crap day and then you get in a vehicle together and then you're just nagging about your crap day, and then that's going to carry into the night when you get home, which is not what you want to do because that's the time with your kids, and now you've lost a day. Well,
and here, agreed. And here is a very important point: is we came to some understandings very early, and we had to work through these struggles just like any other couple that works together. But we understand that there is work Cody and work Candace, and then there is home Candace and home Cody, and they are two very different people.
Can you tell my wife that?
No problem.
she doesn't know how to turn it off.
Not a problem. Dude. No, it is hard to turn it off. And when we have those work conversations at home, like you click in and out of it, but we do our best not to take home our issues with our work spouse home to our at-home spouse.
Got you.
And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it is important to keep that in the back of your mind because if you constantly have that in your mind, it helps you to deal with it and process it a lot better.
Yeah. But let me ask you this though, because my wife comes home and she's like, man, like I had a tough day. I had to deal with this client, I had to deal with this venue, and like I'm kind of her outlet to vent, right? And so one thing I've learned, like, don't always be the problem solver. Guys, that are just getting into marriage, you don't always have to be the problem solver. As men, that's ingrained in us, but sometimes they just need you to hear them out and say, okay, I understand what you're going through. That's valid.
I have a point to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that was one point that I was actually going to hammer home. And yes, guys, it is ingrained and entrenched in us, just in our caveman DNA. We got to fix the problem. But my wife is very, very, and I will give her a compliment on this anytime I can. She is very, very good about when we get home and she has to vent, she goes, I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to listen. Yeah. And that, to me as a guy, it puts me in that headspace. And it is very, very, very beneficial for our marriage. Just that simple verbiage of, I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to listen.
Yeah. Well, it has to be difficult, man, because, like, you guys work in the same business. So, like, when you hear that, like, your first reaction has to be, like, when I go to work tomorrow, like, somebody's going to get an earful. Or, like, we're going to fix this. Whereas, like, you do realize, like, we realize our partners are completely capable of solving their own problems. So there has to be, it has to be hard just to like disconnect from that aspect of it. I can imagine, it's a struggle for you. Yeah, man, I'm really proud of you guys, dude. Like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I love my wife to death. Don't get me wrong, but we have to be able to work separate. That's just
No.
how our relationship works. But we're great at communication as well. Like our communication is on point. And I think me and you, like we went and hung out a while back, and that was one of like the big things that we talked about. And we were with another buddy, and like he was just listening to us, and he was like, "Man, like you and your partners, like you guys have the hard conversations." And I think like so many people, like that's where marriages fall off or marriages fail, because like people are afraid to, like you have to, man, like you have to dig deep. You can't get complacent. You can't have two people living in the same household who like aren't getting their needs met. Like it has to be 100% and 100%, like both trying to make it work. And sorry I got off topic. This was kind of not what this was supposed to be about, but
No.
I enjoy talking to these things, and me and you've had a really lot of great conversations about this over the years, as we've grown.
No, I love talking about this stuff because I get a lot of questions about it. How do you deal with it? You and Candace, y'all are, and I'm sure I know you and Jess get the same compliment of y'all are couple goals, and it is a hard formula, but it's not a complicated formula.
For sure.
And it's you love each other how you want to be loved, how your partner wants to be loved, and you communicate. You're respectful but honest, and you go on dates. Take your spouse on a date.
Yes.
We didn't go on a date for 2 months, and we could feel it in our marriage. And this past week we went on 2 dates.
Yeah, we've been there for the past 3 months. It's just been a lot going on, and we haven't had the time to break away. And we always kind of subscribe to the rule of 3, which pay attention. This is something really good I heard a long time ago. Every 3 days, you check in on your partner. We're not talking about the bills. We're not talking about the house. We're not talking about the grass needs to be cut. Like, you're checking on them, like, how are you actually doing? And, like, give them an opportunity to unload, discuss any issues. Every 3 weeks, you should go on a date night, which is clutch. Like, you need that time. Like, and it doesn't always have to be this big, grandiose gesture. Like, you don't have to go to, like, the 5-star restaurant. I mean, you literally could go to Chili's and go get froyo, right, and call it a day. But just those couple hours break from your normal grind is huge. And then every 3 weeks, overnight. So like you go somewhere for a night, you get a hotel room. 3 months, 3 months. Thank you. And that's one thing that has really helped made our marriage successful, because these kids, I love them to death, but they are a product of the love that I have for my wife. And so like she will always come first, and
100%.
she knows that.
100%.
My kids, I love them to death, but they are second in line to her.
Correct.
I will always put her first. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about the catering side of things, man. So I kind of want to like dive into your business and kind of get to a little, let the guests know, or the people watching, a little bit more about you. So, you're a catering company, man. How many dishes do you guys have on your menu?
So, entree. We're talking specifically entrees.
Yeah, let's do entrees and then maybe break it down with like
Okay.
sides and stuff.
Okay, so entrees on our physical menu, not including vegetarian and carving station, we have just shy of 40. I think it's somewhere around 36 or 37 entrees.
It's like going to Cheesecake Factory, bro. It's like the menu that just doesn't keep ending. And like, so where did all these recipes come from?
Man, it came from a variety of places. Some of them are family recipes. Some of them are Food Network. Some people have asked us to make, and we have just put our own twist on it. Mm-hmm. It just, online, we'll randomly Google something one day, and we'll find our own twist to put on it, and it becomes a staple, or it disappears in 2 years.
Yeah, the pecan crusted chicken, ladies and gentlemen, so fire with that Meunier sauce. Like literally, I worked an open house with them, and I used to be a fat boy. I used to be like 350 pounds, and he sent me home with like a gallon of this Meunier sauce. I ate it in 3 days. I'm not
That's a
even
lot of
kidding,
Meunier
dude. My
sauce,
stomach
dude.
was so jacked up, but it was so delicious, dude. I was just
So
pouring
good.
it over everything. That's probably one of my favorite dishes. But like, so obviously, tastes are evolving. You know, it's year to year, right? You're seeing like the hot new entrees or new protein. Like, how do you guys like adjust your game plan year to year on that? Or have you found like, hey, like this works for us, and like this is where we stick at?
So for 90% of our menu, we have found this works for us. This is where we stick at. 10% is for innovation and trends and things like that. And so for example, for a while, one of the innovative or trendy things that has become a staple on our menu now is
Candy bacon.
Nope. But that one is a staple, and
Okay.
it's our
Sorry.
biggest seller on our very large Cheesecake Factory menu.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
So I DJ'd his sister's wedding, just to interject really quick, and they did chocolate covered candied bacon. It was the only time I'd ever seen it, but they made the mistake of setting that plate right next to my DJ booth, like literally from here to this iPad. I kid you not, I had like 12 or 15
At
slices
least.
of bacon, and then dinner came, and like I wasn't even hungry. Like I was so miserable. I was like, I need like 2 Red Bulls, dude, like to get going. It was so heavy, man. It just weighed me down. But anyways, continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. It's a candy bacon's a popular topic, but the thing that I was talking about is the hanging pretzel bar, and we do it with a beer cheese, it's a pale ale beer cheese, a honey butter, and then a Dijon mustard, and it just visually it's very pretty. Plus, I mean, who doesn't like a big giant salty pretzel with beer cheese?
Dude, late at night,
Bro,
like at the event,
it's-
like
it's-
yeah, like
it's
you
the
don't,
move.
yeah, you don't need like Chick-fil-A, you don't need taquitos,
Nope.
none of that, dude. Just because like people are already still full, I feel like from the massive meal that you fed them,
Right.
And so like that's like a really good little snack because there's some times where like they order all this late night stuff and the crowd's only eating like an hour and a half beforehand.
Right. And that's a big popular one. What's becoming more popular is our flaming donut balls.
Explain.
So what it is it's a rum glazed donut, and it's a flambe station, kind of like a Banana Foster's, and it's donut balls, brown sugar, brown butter, with a little bit of 151 rum, and then light it on fire, and it glazes that sugar to it, and you make them right there in front of people.
Son, dude, put a little banana liqueur in there, and like
Yes, sir.
that's a Bananas Foster right there.
Correct.
You know that's Louisiana dish, right?
I do.
Governor Mike Foster.
And it's my wife's favorite dessert.
Yeah, that's why I believe that's why we don't have helmet laws in Louisiana anymore. Which I'm originally from a little town outside of Baton Rouge called Denham Springs. If you guys are ever going down like I-12 and that big Bass Pro right outside of Baton Rouge, that's my hometown. It was a 2 red light hometown. But I can remember back in the day, like Mike Foster came to Texas and was riding motorcycles and didn't wear a helmet. So he actually went back to Louisiana and like had the laws changed. So you didn't have to wear a helmet.
No way, I didn't
Power
realize
to the
that.
governor. Yeah, it was like really kind of funny story.
That's awesome.
So, all right. So, how many events, are you guys doing like per week or annually, kind of overall?
So per week, I would say, I don't have the average with me, but I would say somewhere around, if you don't include tastings, probably 15 to 18 a week. And that varies from weddings, quinceañeras, funerals, corporate lunches, things like that.
Yeah. So 15 to 18, like, how much staff do you have to have? Like, how many people do you have on staff to be able to accommodate that?
So we have 12 full-time staff members, a lot of which are part of the culinary team.
Okay.
And then we have event managers. I think there's 5 of them, plus you have me and my wife as well. And then there's 4 of us full-time in the office.
Yeah. I think what I like about you guys is like how, at an event, like how you present yourself, like everybody is so incredibly professional and nice. because I have worked with caterers that are just incredibly rude. They're rude to the client. They're rude to the guests. Like, you guys have always just been like genuinely nice. Like, and even the way like you walk around, like they walk around with one arm behind their back, which like feels like you're at this fancy restaurant type of experience. You know, it's kind of like all encompassing, from the food to how they dress, just down to even how they walk. Like, the culture that you guys have created has really helped, I feel, set you apart in the industry from all the other caterers.
Well, man, I appreciate you saying that. That's very kind, and I would hope that some people would say that that comes from top down, because me, Candace, my mother, and my dad have always made it a point to treat anybody that works for us like family, treat them incredibly well. You know, it's the food business. You can't pay people $150,000 a year. It's just not the way it works. But you can take care of your employees. Mm-hmm. You can buy them things. You buy them lunch, breakfast. You know, hey, you've been killing it. Here's an extra $250. Yeah. Like, when it's around, things like that. Yeah. And we've also just, for lack of a better term, harped on them of it. When you're here, it's not about you. You're here to take care of somebody. Mm-hmm. Think about when you go out to eat, or when you go to a movie, or when you go to, you know, to do whatever you want to do that you pay your money for. You expect to be taken care of. Treat people like that.
Yeah, for sure, man. You know, kind of touching on what you were talking about, taking care of people. I think that, you know, a lot of small business owners, they miss that, man. They miss that mark on that. You know, when you have 30, 40 employees, you're a small business, like, your success is contingent on those people, and you have to take care of them. And I think so many business owners, like, they lose some of their best helpers because they miss that little thing. Like, you don't realize, like, how easy it is to not, I don't want to say loyalty, but like kind of loyalty for lack of a better term, but by doing little things like that, like showing your appreciation, not just giving them a paycheck week in, week out, giving them a Christmas bonus, but like that, you know, acknowledgement that, like, hey, I see you crushing it, man. Like, it goes so far. And because I've had so many, I wouldn't say like bad bosses, but just not like the greatest bosses, when I started my company, like, that was one thing I was really big on, like making sure my dudes were taken care of.
100%. You have to.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. All right, let me ask you this. What's the hardest part of being a caterer on a professional and personal level?
On a professional level, I would say it is the erratic schedule. It is, you'll work 16-hour days for a week, and then all of a sudden you'll have a week of 4 or 5 hour days. Mm-hmm. Which, you know, it's nice. I get to spend that time with my family, but you don't develop any sort of consistent sleep schedule or anything like that. And times that takes a toll on your body and on your mind. It really, really does. And you really have to learn how to take small sabbaticals for just a couple days of like, hey, you have to learn how to shut it off. I'm not going to answer emails this weekend. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to shut it off. I'm going to turn it off this weekend. Mm-hmm. And that helps. On a personal level, I think along the same lines, but also just, and this is as real as I can be, it is the mental struggle of dealing with people and having to deal with that mental struggle once you go home, because you can see how amazing people can be, but you can also see how just awful and toxic and just awful people can be.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because, you know, I feel like, you know, you're a good man. I feel like I'm a good man. And that's not how we act, right? Like, it's not how we interact with people. So when somebody comes at us like that, like, it totally, like, it can screw my day up. This happened to me yesterday. Like, I'm not going to go into the detail, but I was trying to explain to the client the situation. It was a new sale for a party, and she just didn't like what I was saying, and just goes, can you just shut up? And like out of left field, it was like so brutally rude, and I was like, and then after I got off the phone, like I'm thinking like, did I say something the wrong way? Like, did I come across with an attitude even though I didn't felt like I did? Like, you just replay that over and over in your mind, man. And it's like, it's really hard to let that stuff go sometimes.
No, 100%. And that speaks to, one, the good person that you are, but also the good business owner that you are, is you took what a potential or client had to say and you did a self-assessment to make sure that everything that I did was in the parameters of what I'm supposed to be doing and saying, and that speaks a lot to you. And I totally understand that, and I'm sure if the times that me and you sit down, we talk about the things that we deal with, and we could write a book. Yeah. It's incredible.
I've always said that, like, that movie The Help with Emma Stone, is that her name?
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, I feel like we should do that for the wedding industry.
100%.
Because some of the stuff that we have seen has just been outlandish. And maybe like one day we'll like do a podcast where we'll kind of talk about some of the crazier things, but change the names so nobody gets embarrassed.
100%.
But dude, we've got them for days, especially as long as we've been in this industry, man. We've seen it all, but people still do surprise you week in and week out. Okay, so let me ask you this. What are some, like, because you've done, I've talked to you, I've seen you, like, what are some really memorable or like famous clients that All Star Catering has had the opportunity to feed over the years?
Oh man, where do you want to start? So the most recent one would be former President Trump. However you feel about that, I have no personal preference on it, but
did his check cash?
The check cashed,
That's all that matters.
and our company had a chance to cater for a former president of the United States. Like, anybody would be stupid to turn that down.
Well, I think not even that, just the opportunities, right? Because the people that were at that dinner, right? Like, if they loved your food, obviously, like, to have a dinner with Trump is not a cheap experience. Those people have money.
And I have gotten a dozen events just from that one event in 1 year.
Yeah. Didn't the Secret Service, like, didn't they do, like, checks on you and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I got the initial call a week before the event, and everybody was very secretive about it, and I finally had to ask the lady who I've done events for. I'm like, I cut to the chase, something's off. She's like, okay, this is an event for the former president. And I'm like, oh. So I had to gather 15 staff plus, I think, 9 alternatives and get all their personal information submitted within like 36 hours so that they could do a background check in time.
Yeah, I remember texting you, like just really random off-the-wall things, like hoping they were tracking his phone. Like, make sure you bring a bomb to the event. And he's like, dude, you're being an asshole, dude. Stop that.
That's exactly what I said.
I couldn't help myself, dude. Yeah. Like, because I know, like, obviously there's zero intention of you doing anything like that. But it's like they're probably watching you when it comes to that stuff because you're feeding them.
I would 100% think so.
Yeah, but like, was there a person that was like taste testing the food, or like somebody that was watching over your shoulder the whole time to make sure you would put like cyanide or something in there?
There was a Secret Service member in the back, kind of watching us. Just what he was watching, I'm not going to speak to. Like what he was looking for, I don't know, but I think just more of he was just manning his post, probably. But the most memorable event, besides probably that one, that's just the most recent one. Mm-hmm. We catered a wedding for Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor.
Oh, nice.
And that was actually the wedding that kind of put us on the map in the wedding industry. A lot of people don't know that, but it was our biggest wedding. It was our most expensive wedding, and it was logistically our most complicated wedding by a mile.
Where did he get married at?
On his now wife's family's private ranch out in Normandy, about an hour and a half from here.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, yeah, because even after like 10 years, I still don't know where cities are. Like, I'm a GPS kid.
It's not a city.
To the day I die. Like, when you live in Louisiana, we don't have like road numbers. We have actual street names. And then you move to Texas and somebody tries to give you directions and they legitimately sound like an auctioneer. Like, 2854,
Yeah,
249, 99, 99, 99, I-10, I-10, I-10. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like all these FM weird roads. I'm like, dude, this is too much. Just give me a GPS. Or like the fact that every person in Texas knows automatically north, south, east, and west. Like they can just be standing there and they're like, yeah, that's north. And I'm like, how? Like I guess I just never needed that because I had a really small town.
The interstates, brother.
I mean, I guess so.
The interstates, if the interstate runs north and south, it ends in an odd number, and if it runs east and west, it ends in a even number.
The more you know. Shooting star. You remember that story as we were kids? All right. What were some other ones, man? I feel like you've talked about. Can you do ZZ Top? Something with ZZ Top?
We did Dusty Hill's funeral. In the Woodlands, who's the lead guitarist for ZZ Top, not Billy Gibbons, but the other guy. But we did Dusty Hill's funeral. We did Emmanuel Sanders, the NFL player. We did his sister's wedding. We did a NFL player. It was actually the last wedding before COVID shut everything down. His name, I forget his name. His name escapes me. But,
who did he play for?
He plays for the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
He's one of their linebackers. Super sweet family.
What about musicians? Any
Wade Bowen. Yep. So,
dude, he's a nice guy.
Wade Bowen. So we for about I think 10 years we sponsored his golf tournament as the food provider. So we did, and we went up there and did his whole charity concert, and we were asked to cater for REO Speedwagon, which we had to respectfully decline. We were just so busy, and the company's just gotten to a point now where we can't do that anymore. We can't go away for 4 days and go party and work for 4 days in a different city. But we have catered for every Texas musician that you can probably think of via Wade Bowen.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I had the opportunity to meet him at a wedding once. So the bride's dad played for his original band. Was it West 84?
Wade Bowen at West 84.
Yeah, he was like the drummer, and so they actually had him come in and sing Who I Am for their first dance. And so he plugged into my stuff, but I was told, like, don't talk to Wade. And I was like, okay. Like, I didn't know, like, if he was like the snooty star. They're like, no, he's having some throat issues, and he's leaving tomorrow to fly out to Nashville. And so he comes up, he plugs in, we sound check, and he starts talking to me. And I was like, Mr. Bowen? And he goes, dude, Wade. And I was like, okay,
yeah,
cool.
No, you won't have it.
He goes, I'm not supposed to be talking to you. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, yeah, I was told I wasn't supposed to talk to you. He's like, don't listen to that. He's like, how are you, man? And like just kind of had like a really quick conversation. Well, I don't know if you remember, but like apparently he was having like vocal cord issues where,
yes.
Yeah, it was like his vocal cords were essentially just holding blood. They were so damaged.
Yeah.
Now when he talked, he was like, it sounded really bad. But the second that dude got on the mic, turned it on. Like instant performer, like
professional.
Sounds just like it did on the album. And I'm like, that dude is an incredible performer.
He's phenomenal. He's my favorite singer-songwriter, and he was before we started catering for him. I mean, we've been a Wade Bowen fan since many years before we started catering for him, and just over the years it's become a friendship, and we don't cater really for him anymore, but we'll still see him from time to time. If he comes through town, we'll go see him, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like Texas has its own brand of country. I didn't know that till I moved here. Like I grew up on your basic, I like to call it, not Luke Bryan pop country, but like this stuff from the 90s, right? That
90s
felt like
country.
Yeah, like Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, Brooks and Dunn, dude, Trouble, Travis Tritt, banger. Like banger. One of my favorite country songs. I know. I got to see him with Brooks and Dunn live. them and Brooks and Dunn are still incredible performers.
That's what I've heard.
Dude, they're like 60-something years old, man, and they are running across the stage back and forth. Their voice sounds great. Yeah, it was an awesome experience, man. But I had to learn all this stuff in the wedding industry. I literally had to relearn how to do weddings when I moved to Texas, because in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, it's like hip hop. You know, a lot of like Cash Money, No Limit Records, some pop, very little country, and then old school love songs like Percy Sledge, When a Man Loves a Woman. And then we moved to Texas, and I was used to work with another company before I started my own. Shout out DJ Day Productions. Great guy, great mentor,
Great
man.
guy.
Yeah, really.
Great company.
I mean, really just kind of helped me like become the DJ that I am today, man. I can't say enough good things about him. But he dropped Copperhead Road, and like the dance floor went crazy, and I was like,
What
dude?
is this voodoo
I was
magic?
I was like, is this like the hot new line dance? And he was like, huh? And I was like, is this the hot? And he just starts laughing. I was like, what's so funny? He's like, dude, we've been playing this for like 15 years. And I had no clue.
Every event.
Had never heard it. But have you ever heard of the freeze?
I have not.
Yeah. See, like we do the freeze in Louisiana. Yeah, it's kind of like if you mixed Cupid Shuffle with the wobble, like kind of the steps it's like really basic. And then the stroke. Do you know the stroke? I'll be stroking.
I do know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that
yes,
was the
I know
other
that
big one. Like those are the ones. Like, did y'all do line dances in like school, like in PE?
Not that I can remember, but that was a couple decades ago.
Yeah, that was like 8th grade for us. You had to learn line dances,
Oh yeah, no, we
which was really weird.
Yeah,
Like, you got graded on it and stuff.
No, we were still in the dodgeball phase.
Yeah, I think it was just like a quick and cheap way for them to keep us all entertained.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, and not have us destroying each other with sports or whatever. But, anyways, so all right, so Trump, like, so are there any other events that you feel like have been like the coolest or like most over the top things that you've seen, or like events you've been a part of?
Over the top, we did one called Tea on the Lawn. Is for a nonprofit organization called New Danville in Willis, and they have programs and activities and adult daycare for adults with special needs.
Okay.
And it is a huge event. It's like 700 people. It's a luncheon. And you've worked in the food industry, so you understand the logistics of timelines versus how long things take in the food industry. And it was a 2-hour luncheon with 2 different tea times, an appetizer, a salad, a lunch, and a dessert, and a program. And so it was one of the most, it was probably the second most stressful event I've ever done. I don't think I slept for like 2.5 days, just because there were so many details and the timeline was so tight and condensed. And my wife was also 4 months pregnant and incredibly sick. And was there working, like she's just having the morning sickness stuff.
Yeah, was this the first one?
This was the first one.
Yeah, that was the toughest on them.
Yeah, that was one of the most memorable events. We did some back in the day before we just were the size that we are now. We did a lot of catering for FEMA, and it was very lucrative. It was very interesting. It was a lot of learning experiences, but being on site where these communities were just ravaged. I know this. I know this answer took.
No, you're good.
No,
What disaster was it?
It was one. There was one that was the Florida hurricane. I don't remember which one.
Okay.
And then we did some for Katrina after, because that was at the very, very beginning. And then we did some for Ike, and there was a couple that went through there on the coast of the peninsula of Florida, and I don't remember which one it was.
Hit Galveston?
Ike hit Galveston. It hit like Port Arthur, I think.
Okay, got you. Yeah.
But
There's
it
too
also
many of 'em to count.
destroyed parts of Louisiana, because that was the bad side of the storm.
Yeah.
But just seeing communities ravaged and just in complete dismay, man, it just makes you realize how lucky you are from where you come from, and how lucky you are that we live, because we live right at 90 miles above the coast up in Conroe, and we're just far enough to where that kind of stuff usually doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, it seems like what it does is like once it gets in the Gulf, it always like hooks into like Lake Charles. I feel like they get hammered all the time. It is relentless for them, man. We've been very, very fortunate. The only reason Houston got jacked up in that one a few years ago was like that was the weirdest hurricane
Harvey.
I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Harvey.
that was hands down the weirdest one.
Like I've never seen a hurricane just sit and not move and
Crazy.
just dump and dump and dump.
Perfect storm.
Yeah. I was like, this is wild, man. We bailed on that one though. Like we went up to Waco. I was like, I'm not riding this one out here.
Another memorable event would be it was the event that didn't happen but kind of happened, and let me explain. So it was on that same property that we did Marcus Luttrell's wedding, and it was about a year before that. This couple was getting married, and they were getting married in this barn on the property. It was a really high-end event, a lot of logistics because we were in the middle of nowhere. And the bride and groom, the day before, we're heading up to, or 2 days before, we're heading up to Dallas to go pick up some family members from the airport. Got in a fight on the way. And he hopped on a plane and left and went home to California. And there was no more wedding. But they had spent on this wedding, I mean, this is in like 2009, at $80,000. And so they had just a massive blowout party to end all massive blowout parties.
Oh, that's cool, man. Because like most of the time when it does happen in our industry, like that's it, and it's a complete
Correct.
loss. So like, buy wedding insurance. Like seriously,
100%.
Like buy wedding insurance, like
Yes.
just in case. I'm not talking about like if you think that you're gonna split up. No, that's not it. Like if something were to happen, like God forbid, like you just got really sick, not like terminally sick, but you got like super sick and you could not have your wedding, you could physically not be there, that would cover those costs. And I think it's what, like $300 or $400. If you're spending, the average wedding in Houston is what, like 36 to 38,000.
Right around there. Yeah.
What's another $300, man, just to cover all
100%.
your bases? It's so worth it, and so many people don't do it. It's the least possible thing, man. I mean, if you're gonna buy a brand new car, like why you're gonna put insurance on it?
If you're gonna
Same with the
buy a
wedding,
nice
man.
honeymoon, what are you gonna buy? Travel insurance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Buy wedding insurance.
Yeah.
Buy wedding insurance.
Yeah, yeah. So many people they don't do that, and then a lot of times when it doesn't work out, which unfortunately happens in our industry, who has paid for the majority of this? The parents.
Right.
And then so they get screwed royally. Now, there was an instance where my wife in her former job was involved with wedding venues, and Saturday morning, two or three like huge horse trailers pull up. There's not supposed to be any weddings that day, and they go down to the hall, and then they come back, and the lady was like, "Hey, like, it's not unlocked. What's going on?" And she was like, "Well, there's no weddings today, ma'am." And she's like, "Oh no, like we're having a wedding." And she's like, and so my wife's freaking out, like, "Did I screw up? What's going on?" So she brings her in the office, and she's like, "What's the names?" And the lady tells her, and she goes, "Oh, they called and canceled on me like months ago." And the mom's like, What are you talking about?" And she goes, "I gave them the checks, or I gave them the money to pay y'all." And she goes, "Ma'am, nobody paid us." So they were full DIY. They did all the food, the cake, the flowers. That was in those 3 horse trailers full of stuff. And that couple just didn't tell them. Went and did hair and nails with the mom 48 hours before and still didn't say anything and didn't show up. Can you imagine?
I couldn't
imagine, bro. Like, and in all reality, like, what was it, right? If it was full DIY and the mom gave the couple the money for the venue, we're talking about like probably at that point like $5,000 or $6,000.
I would think so.
You completely ruined a relationship, not only like the groom and his mother, but you with her if you want to try to reconcile things. On top of all the other money they spent, like I was just blown away that somebody had the audacity to do that. That was probably the wildest one that I had ever
blows
heard.
my mind.
Yeah, like the band was there, everything, everybody was ready to go, and there was no wedding.
Oh my God, that makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of people give the runaround. One of the most memorable. I'll give you one more. This was, I think, in 2011, in the middle of that ridiculous heat wave that we had in 2011, where we had like 70 straight days of 100 plus. Mm-hmm. And we were doing something for the Woodlands Development Company, and it was a new development in the back of the Woodlands that they were doing, and it was for 5,000 people over 3 days. Fried chicken, corn, and potatoes. In July.
That's a lot of fried chicken, dude.
Outside.
Oof.
And I smelt fried chicken for 3 weeks. I just couldn't get rid of the smell in my nose. And I didn't eat fried chicken again until me and my dad went to Louisville for the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. And we were in Kentucky, and I'm like, I will try fried chicken. That was the first time I ate it, and that was in 2019.
That sounds like somebody that had like a bad experience with the liquor when they were young, and like they won't ever drink it again. Yeah, like I can't do Sunny D anymore because like I did vodka and Sunny D, and I threw it up, and it was so horrible. Like you got acidic puke. Sorry, I know it's a lot, and then acidic Sunny D. Like I can't do it anymore. Okay, so like in your opinion, man, like what makes a great event? Like maybe not only from the catering side, but just like overall, like what are like some checkpoints, like or things people should be checking off their list, like hey, this is what we need to do in order to have a great event.
Okay, so it's probably not going to be the answer that most people would think, but it's kind of a short yet long answer. So here we go. First off, understand if somebody is helping you pay for it, there has to be some give and take. But in the spirit of that, do things that you want to do. Don't do things because it's the trendy thing to do. That's not going to be memorable to you. Do things that make the wedding yours, because that's going to make the event, or any event, make it yours. That's going to be the thing that's going to make it the most memorable. The second thing would be clarity in all of your contracts. Understand what you have, what you don't have in all your contracts. If somebody tells you something, make sure it's in writing on your contracts, because you're getting details from several different companies of the same industry when you're getting bids, and you will confuse those details. It happens 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And the next thing is when it comes to the day of, you want the best event possible. You want to have the most memorable, incredible event. Enjoy the day. Let your vendors do their job. And if there is an issue that arises, handle it on Monday. Enjoy your day.
Yeah.
That will make the best overall event. And that's it.
Wow. That was good, man. That was not what I was expecting, but that was actually really, really smart. So go over one more time. What was number one?
Number one would be...
I should have wrote it down. I
wrote
know
it
number
down
two
too.
was contracts. Number three was enjoy the day.
Oh, you have to understand that there's
a
give
don't
and
follow
take.
trend. Don't follow. Or yeah,
You can do some trends, but make the event yours. Make it things that you like, not things that are going to impress everybody else. Make the event yours.
Yeah. So that's right. The first one was give and take. Yeah. It's got to be tough, man. And I think like you need to lay out those guidelines before you get into spending a single dollar, right? Like what your vision is, and have that clear and concise vision so you can relay that to the people that are going to be financially supporting it. So there's no surprises, right? Like, I know for us, like our catering, like when we sent our family, because they wanted to help out, we sent them the catering bill, and they're like, "This is just ridiculous. We don't understand why you're spending all this money." But like in reality, what we should have done was like had a conversation with them, like, "Hey, these are the types of
100%.
things that we're gonna have, and just so you know, this is the estimated cost, but we haven't got a full quote." Number two, like buck tradition, buck trends, dude. I tell people that all the time. Like, make it unique to you. Some of the coolest things that I've seen are just like the most random things, like. Like the song "The Bride Will Walk Down the Aisle" too. Like, you don't have to do "Here Comes the Bride." You don't have to do 1,000 years. And if you want tradition, like, dude, I respect that, and I think that is great because you have your own vision. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to make it unique, do something fun. Like, I had a bride walk down the aisle to "Lose Yourself" by Eminem. It was epic, bro. Palms
That's
are
awesome,
sweaty,
dude.
knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweat
Sweater
already.
already.
Mom's spaghetti's
Spaghetti's.
nervous. Yeah, dude. And like, she was like, she had that swagger to her, and the crowd was going crazy.
That's dope.
He was an Air Force pilot, so she came down to the theme song from Top Gun. I've had a bride come down. She was a huge 80s fan. That song, Heaven on Earth. Ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth? And then they opened the doors at then, and then she busted through. Who makes heaven a place on earth? Everybody started laughing. They were clapping, and like that set the tone for the night. Me, just to kind of add on to that, like one of the things I do think makes a great wedding, grand entrance. Like for me,
Agreed.
grand entrance tells me almost everything of how that night is going to go. Because when I introduce the bride and groom and my ears hurt because it's so loud in there, that crowd has good energy and they're going to turn up. When I say, ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Mr. and Mrs. Cody Spence, and I get golf claps, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a tough night. It's going to be stiff. Yeah, dude. But also, like, your guest list, too. Like, I understand that, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, but, like, I understand you have to invite, certain people, right? But if 65% of your guest list is over 60 years old, that's going to be a little bit more difficult from a DJ aspect, right? Because they're not going to the window, to the wall. Also, at that age, you've got them for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then that's kind of it for them until a country song comes on. Invite your friend group, people that are going to want to celebrate and turn up with you. Like, that's one of the biggest things for me. It makes a successful wedding.
And from a size-wise standpoint, I would say, and this is just another thing I've observed over the years, the bigger the wedding, the bigger the stress. 150, 180 people.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss. Perfect number.
Perfect.
You don't need 350 people at your wedding.
Unless you want to just literally be telling hello to people all night.
That's all you're going to do.
And be interrupted and not be able to enjoy it. Because you cannot, if at 150 during dinner time, you can go around and touch each table.
And still have time to do other things and enjoy your night. If it's 350 people, congratulations, you have signed yourself up for a political campaign fundraiser because you're walking around talking to people all night.
That's it, man. And I just don't have the emotional energy to do that. I'd be tapped out, man. And so once the dance floor opened at my wedding, I was like, you want to come talk to me? Like, you'll know where I'll be. But I'm not coming out here to have a conversation with you. I want to enjoy and celebrate and all that. So, yeah, I think that's a really great number. Okay, what questions should people be asking their caterers when they're, attempting to hire one? Like, what are some of the big ones for you?
What are your price points is a big question that we get all the time. What question should people be asking? I don't necessarily think there's any particular question. It all depends on the event and the style of event that the person wants to do, but I would say verifying and clarifying what is included in the price point that you're getting. Like for us, our company's invoices and quotes and contracts are all itemized. It's boom, 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 boom on there. You know exactly what you're being charged for. And I tell people, if it's not on this contract, it is not included. Ask. And if any of us have missed something, ask about it, and we'll put it on there, and to make sure that it's on there for clarity. I would say clarify and verify. Any questions that fall along that standpoint, do that. It is because a lot of caterers' contracts are not as upfront and open as ours is. It's just like, you got this package, and then it doesn't outline everything that's in the package.
Yeah. So like maybe kind of like redirect, like what are some pitfalls that are commonly like the client thinks that you as the caterer should be responsible for this, but that's like not in your contract. Like maybe like bussing tables or like cutting the cake and all that.
Gotcha. So is your caterer cutting the cake? Do you provide buffet tables and linens, or is that something we need to provide? Those are really important questions because, like us, it's not included for us to provide tables and linens. If they want that, it's an additional charge. It's in their contract. It's clearly stated. Cake cutting, it's in big, bold, red letters. This is not included. If you want this service, this is how much it is. Are beverages included? How long are you on site for at this price point? Are you there till the end of the event? Things like that. Are you familiar with my venue and their policies and procedures and requirements? That's a big one.
Yeah. Okay.
Now that I'm really thinking about it, like that, now they're coming to
Well,
me.
caterers, y'all have like a laundry list of stuff that you guys have to worry about. Like when people tell me, "Have you ever been to my venue?" and I'm like, "No," but it doesn't worry me. Like after a decade in this industry, like you can throw me anywhere and I'm gonna make it work. Right. All I need is a corner. I've got enough gear, like if the room's too big or, there's a venue that I work at quite often, and shout out Luminaire, love you guys.
Great venue,
yeah,
great people.
Yeah, really. Mary, awesome coordinator,
Dude,
such
she's
a
awesome.
sweetheart of a lady. But that venue acoustically is very challenging. It's very cavernous. It's almost like a cave, very echoey. And so I always have extra gear. So if you have me in the front corner, I know I've got to put an extra speaker in the back of the room. If you have me in the middle of the room, I'm fine.
And that's not a knock on the venue.
No.
At all.
No,
It's
not
just,
at all.
It's
It's
just
not
the
a
way,
negative thing.
No,
but,
not at all.
But as a professional, you should be able to walk into any space and make the sound work and
100%.
make the job work. So that's kind of all I was getting to. Okay, let's see. What are things about your facet of the industry that most people don't know about? Positive, negative, mix, or both? And if we've already touched on it, we can go to something else.
We touched on it a little bit here and there, but understand that what people need to understand is that this is, for a lot of us, our full-time jobs. And I understand that you work 9 to 5 and you want to have these conversations at 8 o'clock at night, and sometimes we can and sometimes we can't. And I will email you back at the start of business tomorrow. And it's nothing against them. It's not that I don't want the business. It's just sometimes we have to go home and turn it off.
Yeah.
This is our 9 to 5. If anything, it's actually our 6 a.m. to 1 a.m.
Yeah. Well, realistically, dude, we get, 3 to 4 hours a day with our kids at most?
At most.
And then we get 2 hours in the morning, and then you get 2 hours in the evening. And so there's not going to be a whole lot that's going to come in between that. And when I'm off, I'm not answering emails. I'm not answering phone calls. Like that, if I'm dedicating that day to them, 100%, that is all for them. Like I was watching Biography's got this WWE Legends, and it's like all the wrestlers that we had growing up. You should watch it. But the consistent theme in every single one of those was what was your favorite thing about your daddy being a wrestler? They all said when he was hurt. And I was like, that's a weird answer. But they said it's because he was home. Right? Like, yeah, your dad being a wrestler is cool. Like, to my kids, like, their dad being a DJ is cool. But they also want that one-on-one time. And so, like, we have to set boundaries. It's not that we don't love you. It's not that, we're not fully invested in your wedding, but understand we have personal lives as well, right? We have to be able to spend time with our wife, make sure our marriage is good, make sure our foundation is solid. Because if not, I mean, if you're 24/7 in this industry and you never shut it off, something else in your life is lacking.
You will burn out, and we'll burn out, and we'll mess up your event. And I look at it like this: if I'm going to invest in you as a client and invest my time, energy, and efforts into making your event the dream come true that you want it to be, I have to invest in my family and time outside of work.
Yeah.
I have to be able to recharge myself.
Well, and so many vendors, they do burn out. We see it, man.
We do.
These people come in hot and heavy, man, and they are crushing it. And they don't pay attention to, like, their personal health, their mental health. They're grinding, and then they crash hard.
And then about 18 to 24 months later, they crash hard.
Yeah, man. And, it's kind of a catch-22 because we pray for this success. Like, we want to be this busy. We want to be this successful. We want all these events, right? We want to make good money. And then we get it. And then we're in it. And we're like, this is a lot. Like, I didn't realize it was going to be this much. And so it's like having to learn how to evolve and grow as an individual and as a business owner to be able to take on all these extra responsibilities, but then to still be able to be a husband and be a father. Like, it's a juggling act, and it's something that every year I've had to work harder and harder at, especially as my kids get older.
Right, and what a lot of people need to understand is a lot of people in the industry need to understand when it gets to that point is you have to be able to take the time, that extra effort to invest in people and then trust them to do their job.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you have to duplicate yourself. You'll never fully duplicate yourself, but you have to invest that time into people and trust them to do their job.
Yeah. But and it's not like saying like we're burnt out. Like, I don't want people to think
We are
like it's
absolutely
negative.
not burnt out
It's not.
at
It's
all.
not negative at all. I mean, in reality, like, I get paid to party every weekend.
Amen.
Dude, it's a pretty bomb job when you think about it. Like, how many people literally get to play music every single weekend for a living? Like, something they're truly passionate about. Like, how many people go to work 9 to 5 just to collect a paycheck? Like, I did something that was my passion project, and I'm very fortunate. But, there's just no way that I can continue to do 3-4 nights every week, man. I have to scale it back. But that was also, like, growing in the past 2 years and finding, like, some really heavy hitter DJs that I can trust and go out there. And that's been the big transition in my business is everybody wants you. Everybody wants Cody Spence at their event. Everybody wants Jacob Kelly at their event. And so having to change and, still meet their expectations, and let them know that, hey, just because it's not me, you still have a great DJ, and that reassurance. But I've
Because your name is still attached to it.
exactly, and whoever I bring on has to, like, yeah, we all have our different styles, but you still have to do things like how I do them. There still has to be a certain level of me, and the foundational stuff in them. But that's why it's taken me so long just to grow to the number of guys I have, because there's a lot of guys that didn't make the cut, man. I'm too picky. But it's the biggest days of somebody's life, man. And, like, the DJ's the make or break point of the wedding. Like, if the food is great and the flowers are on point, but the music sucks, like, bro, people are hitting they're hitting the freaking door, man. That's it.
Well, and that's one thing we instill and teach into our staff, our on-site staff for day of events is, yes, you do this 3 times a week, every week. A mess up here and there, okay, it's a major mess up, but, I got the last 50 of them right. this is the only one that this gal's ever going to have, or this couple. This is the only one of more than like 50-50 shot. It's the only one they're ever going to do. Yeah. But we've messed up there one day. We can't do that. Double check, triple check.
Absolutely, man. And that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of weight on you, man, knowing that. But being able to rise to the occasion, man. And obviously just, like, experience in the industry, too. Like, being able to handle all these crazy situations. Because at this point, you know, there's still things that'll surprise me. But for the most part, if something's going off the rails, like, I know exactly how to pull it back on really quick. How to divert, how to change gears, you know, anything like that.
Trial by fire.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so this is going to be my last question. If you could feed one person, dead or alive, you could cater for them, who would it be and why? I know it's a tough one.
It is a tough one. So, like,
You can have more than one if you want.
I gotta have to. So one, just it would just be I would want to feed this person just, and it's such a cliche Christian guy answer, but I would want to feed this guy just to be able to sit down and have a conversation with him. And it's Jesus. Like, what Christian guy wouldn't want to?
No, I don't
but
think
also
that's cliche. I think that's a great answer, man.
But also, my secondary answer would be, it's a team, and I would want to feed the Houston Astros because you know me, I'm an Astros fanatic.
Yeah, for sure.
I love the Astros, and that would just be cool.
Yeah, I didn't even know we were in the World Series this year. Dude, I did a wedding where, like, they had the announcer from the Astros do their grand entrance. They had Orbit in a tuxedo. Their wedding cake was the World Series championship.
Cool. Was that at the Lumiere?
No, it was at Tremont House in Galveston.
Okay.
Wild wedding, dude. Wow, it was a banger of a wedding. But we're talking, and they're like, you know, and they were talking about the World Series championships. I was like, I didn't even know. And they're like, how do you not know? I was like, I'm just not a baseball guy.
I love it, dude. I grew up playing it.
I did too, but I got
one thing I love.
Yeah. Oh, but didn't you play sports in college?
No, I got a golf scholarship and I turned it down.
Okay.
Which, you know, it's one of those like catch-22s. Like, do I regret turning it down? Like, yes and no, because I think it would have been beneficial for me, but also I wouldn't have the life that I have now. I wouldn't have met my wife, like, if I had to have turned it.
Yeah.
You know,
it's really interesting, man. Like, when you look back at those points,
right?
You know, or like, you know, one little decision. If I would have taken this job, or had my wife not gotten hired, like for me, like had my wife not been persistent, like she literally went up there every couple days for 3 weeks and bugged the manager till he hired her. Like, had she not been that persistent, like we wouldn't be where we are right now. Because we had crossed paths a few times, but we actually never met each other, which was really interesting.
Butterfly effect, man.
Yeah, for real,
That's
man.
awesome.
And here we are, dude. Well, awesome, man. Well, man, seriously, thank you so much for coming on, brother. I appreciate it, man. This has been an absolute pleasure. We hope you guys enjoy us. We're going to keep these things coming. We're going to keep bringing more wedding vendors on here, give you guys the opportunity to get to know them. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe in the comments. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. Tell us, you know, people that you would like to see. You know, put that in the comments, and we'll try to get them on. So once again, Cody Spence with All-Star Catering. My name is DJ Big Jake with J. Kelly Productions. This is WedTX Talks. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.